Tonight is Wednesday, January 4th. This is our 6 p.m. regular Selectmen's meeting in the Selectmen's meeting room. I would entertain anyone who'd like to speak at Citizens Open Forum. Your name and your address, please.
Happy New Year. Kate McNulty Vaughn, 10 Post Road. I almost said 4 Post Road. Anyway, I am a member of the Planning Board, but I am here tonight as just a member, just a citizen, I guess. It's an awkward situation. Some time ago, while the Planning Board was working on the wireless infrastructure bylaw, we had a little bit of a discussion about sending a letter to our state and federal legislators on some issues that we felt were pertained to our difficulty with the bylaw. And I drafted that letter. The date that I have on it is, I thought it was last fall. It turns out it was around January 25th. The letter, in effect, was never presented to the Planning Board because we just decided we'll get back to working on the bylaw and keep going. So it's not a public document. It's simply, at this point, a draft. And because I saw on the agenda that you had a request for the board to send a specific type of letter, I just wanted you to be aware that we have a draft. Whether we ever send anything or not, I don't know what will happen. But in light of everything that's gone on, I would caution you about getting involved in really federal level issues. They will have to be resolved at a level different from local. But that's my personal recommendation. It's not a Planning Board recommendation. Okay, thank you.
There's a donation acceptance. Police Chief Steve O'Brien is seeking our approval to accept a monetary donation. The Community Center Director, Darlene McCauley, is also seeking our approval to accept a donation and other monetary donations. A donation and a donation. Great. There's going to be general business, but we'll discuss that after the consent agenda. That's everything we have.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Now on to general business. We have an authorization to petition the Land Court to deregister a portion of Edith Wharton Park on Laurel Lake Cross Road, jointly owned by Lee and Lenox. Chris, you'd like to
Thank you, Madam
go
Chair.
into this?
So I provided to the board the cottage and some acreage in Edith Wharton Park is subject of a purchase and sale agreement involving the town of Lee, town of Lenox, Edith Wharton Restorations, Inc., who happens to be here tonight for another reason. But the council's recommending that we pursue the process of deregistering the land with the registry deeds prior to completing the sale. So they've provided a recommended motion, and this is fundamentally something of a housekeeping item that we have to go through. But it's this sale has been approved by town meeting. It's been approved by a 2/3 roll call vote of the legislature at this point and signed by the governor. It's it's just one more step in the process for dispossessing the land and putting it into the hands of those who are best suited for stewardship.
Excellent, thank you. I would entertain a motion to deregister the Edith Wharton property.
Okay, I move that the Select Board vote to submit a petition to the Land Court to deregister the property located at Laurel Lake Crossroad, owned by Lenox and Lee, a portion of which is under agreement with Edith Wharton Restoration Incorporated, and authorize the chair of the Select Board or the town manager to execute any and all petitions and/or other documentation with the Land Court to effect said deregistration.
Is there a second? Thank you. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Great. I think this is a great opportunity for Edith Wharton Restoration. This is a very good opportunity for us in the town of Lee to repatriate this land. That's probably not the right word. but to provide it back to those who can better steward it. Mr. Kitchen said it much better than I did.
Just to close the loop on the schedule as far as this goes, I believe the select board in Lee is scheduled to take this matter up later this month, and then we'll move forward with next steps after that. So, thank you.
Great, now we'll move on to discuss the request for the board to send a letter to the FCC and federal and state officials relative to health effects of wireless infrastructure. We've been asked by residents of the town to consider sending a letter to the FCC and our federal and state officials. I'd like to hear from the board as to your thoughts.
I was happy to hear Katie bring this up tonight, because I kind of feel we should do something. Don't know what that is right now, and I don't want to make a decision tonight because we're shorthanded here tonight. But it was refreshing to hear Katie say that, and I think she can be a big help, as we move forward with this. So, we probably should do something. What that is, I don't know exactly.
Right.
But I think we should, put our heads together, planning board with, with ourselves, town manager, and take a step in that direction.
Exactly, I concur with that.
Or not, or do whatever we think we should.
Right, I think reaching out to our legislators as citizens is a good idea. This is an FCC regulation. We cannot compel the FCC to do their job, but we can present our opinions. I would encourage those residents who have brought this to our attention to do the same. But clearly, we don't have a complete board tonight, and so I think this would be great if we could take it up at a meeting later on. And I would concur with the comments from the planning board member that was here tonight, Ms. McNulty Vaughn, that clearly there's something we can do, but it would probably be better discussed with the complete board.
I would agree with both of you and the planning board. We've got a little ways to go yet. It's a complex issue. It needs to be thought out fully. So we gotta pursue this further.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you coming forward, Kate, and speaking at Citizens Open Forum tonight. That was really helpful. We've been in receipt of a number of missives from various parties on this issue, and we will take it under further consideration for some kind of a draft. Okay, great. Now we're going to look at the change of manager, change of officers, directors, LLC managers, alteration of licensed premises, annual all alcohol general on-premises license for Edith Wharton Restoration Incorporated at 2 Plunkett Street. We have a...
Yeah, this is a public hearing, so I'll read the notice and then we'll open the public hearing. Notice is hereby given that a hearing will be held by the Select Board in their capacity as licensing board on an application for a change of manager, change of officers, directors, LLC managers, and an alteration of the licensed premises on an all-alcoholic general on-premises license, which has been filed with the local licensing board by Edith Wharton Restoration, Inc., doing business as The Mount. Kelsey Polk, manager for premises located at 2 Plunkett Street, Lenox, and consisting of a 3-story mansion consisting of the main floor dining room, drawing room and gallery, a banistered terrace adjoining the main floor of the mansion, a walled courtyard at the mansion's entrance, the formal garden areas consisting of the hedge flower garden and lime walk, hedge grass terraces between mansion and the lime walk, a walled Italian garden, and an up to 80 by 120-foot outdoor area to be tented across the main drive from the stable. The board will act on said application on Wednesday, January 4th, 2023 at 6 p.m. in the Selectmen's Meeting Room, Town Hall Building, Lenox, Mass. David Roach, Chairman. So with that read, I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Hi, I believe we have someone here for Edith Wharton Restoration.
Good evening, Attorney Egan, representing from Cohen, Kinney, Valcente and Cook. representing Edith Wharton Restoration, Inc., doing business as The Mount. With us here this evening is Susan Whistler, the Executive Director of The Mount, as well as Kelsey Polk, the Director of Food and Beverage at The Mount. As Mr. Lane suggested, we're here requesting 3 amendments to the current annual all-alcoholic beverage license for The Mount at 2 Plunkett Street, and I'll just walk you briefly through those amendments, and then to the extent you have any questions, by all means, we're happy to respond to any questions you have. So the first amendment is a change of officers and directors, and that's really a ministerial change. Does not normally happen when officers and directors change, but in this case, because we're seeking the amendments, we thought it was best just to bring forward and up-to-date the list of officers and directors. It's just really a reflection of who currently serves in those capacities. The second amendment is a change of manager. Currently, the manager of record is Susan Whistler, and we request that that be amended to so that Kelsey Polk be the manager of record. As I mentioned, Kelsey's currently the Director of Food and Beverage for The Mount. She'll be on site 30 to 50 hours each week, so she'll be in a good position to be able to manage that license. Prior to serving as the Food and Beverage Director, she was the event coordinator since June of 2016 to October of 2021. So Kelsey's got a good understanding of the operations of the Mount, and we believe is very well suited to serve as manager. And then the last amendment, as Mr. Lane read, is a amendment to the description of the premises. Currently, the premises consists of the main floor, which is a dining room, drawing room, and gallery, as well as a tented area on the lawn in front of the mansion. And the request is to change that, what we propose as the new described premises would be that main floor that I just spoke about, the banistered terrace immediately adjoining or adjacent to that main floor, a walled area of the courtyard leading into the front of the mansion, as well as the formal gardens. And as Mr. Lane suggested, that includes the French flower garden and lime walk, as well as hedged grass terraces between the mansion and the lime walk, and the Italian walled garden. There's also an 80 by 120 foot tented area, which is across from the stables as you come into the Mount, and that will be tented. So we're confident, based on the fact that we have an indoor area, hedges, walled areas, as well as a tented area, that the control of alcoholic beverages will be there, and that each one of these areas lend themselves to sound management of alcoholic beverages on site. If anyone has any questions, I think I would just add the reason we're requesting this change. First and foremost, the tented area that's in the current license was kind of washed out by a storm in 2014, 2015, and there was a swale constructed in that area for stormwater management, so that area cannot be used. Currently, as the board may know, the Mount has applied for one-day licenses. We just think, first of all, that's not really efficient, and second of all, that precludes the Mount from hosting other events at which alcohol is served, because quite frankly, with the number of events, they use up those licenses. Would also note that currently the license has operating hours 8 a.m. to 1 a.m. The Mount is currently on the one-day license abiding by the Selectboard's requirement that alcohol services stops at 11 p.m. and the Mount is happy to have that 11 p.m. curfew applied to the license going forward. Just as a show of goodwill and being a neighbor who's concerned and and operating within those bounds. So if anyone has any questions for me or Susan or Kelsey, we're very happy to answer those questions.
Well, great. Thank you, Mr. Egan. That's a very good explanation, and we did have some concern regarding the one-day liquor licenses, which the Select Board has pulled back to be an 11 PM stop versus the all-alcohol license, which allows a licensee to serve alcohol between 8 AM and 1 AM. So that's a very generous concession.
So, do you want me?
Sure, go for it.
Yeah, you're right. The way it's worked at Edith Wharton, so everybody knows, it's just exactly how you explained it. You had an all-alcoholic license for the building, for the mill, and you get the permits for everything else. Just the way the ABCC is, you have to get a different permit to do the whole thing. Normally, I just rubber stamp this, say, okay, this is a great thing, and it is a great thing. I don't want to say it isn't. But we had considerable pushback from neighbors. It is in a residential area, and we settled upon the 11 o'clock closing time for the special events. So I think that's what we'd like to see again. Now, where the little glitch comes in my mind is, legally, can we do this tonight? So I think we have to take pause, look at it, get advice from others that know the real regulations, so we don't mess anything up and, postpone things and, make a determination after we have all that kind of information.
That's a good idea. We should probably reach out to our council to see if this is a modification that could be made, because perhaps legally it's not within our purview to do this as a one-off. So I would concur with Mr. Lane.
I too would agree with Mr. Lane. We've got to be cautious on this.
So I think what we're going to do is we're going to table this. We're going to continue this, rather, to a further meeting. So we've opened this public hearing.
Ask Wayne if anybody else wants to talk.
We can.
I think it's
Okay.
only right.
Yeah, sure.
I think.
Wayne, I see that you're here, and I know that you might have had some concerns about this. If you'd like to come on up and... And if you could give your name and address.
Yes.
Wayne Lemansky, 15 Frothingham Crossing. As I said, I've never had any problems with holding the special events. This change makes it a little bit different in the sense that we give up a little bit of leverage. And the leverage we give up, I think, is the fact that when they came for the one-day permission to hold these events, if they didn't abide by the 11 p.m. curfew, then we had the leverage of next time denying it. With the all-alcoholic beverage and 11 p.m. closing, I'm not sure what that leverage is anymore. And I'm sure it's the same issue that you face with any establishment that has a liquor license. But I'm not really so much concerned about it. As I said, they're a good neighbor. They've done a great job there. I want to see them succeed. The only issue that I had was the 11 p.m., the 1 a.m. Ending time. And the only other issue I would say is that hopefully the entertainment also ends at 11 p.m. along with the ability to serve the alcohol, because it's really the entertainment issue. People can drink all night as far as I'm concerned, but just like to have the entertainment end at 11 p.m. But otherwise, I would be satisfied with what they are proposing as long as it's kept at that 11 p.m. Closing time. Thank you.
Let me make a motion.
Yeah, sure. Why don't you do that?
I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing to the board's next regular meeting on January 18th, 2023 at 6 p.m. This way we don't have to start all over with reposting it and all that kind of thing. We can hopefully figure it out.
I'll second.
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you very much, and thank you for your patience with us. We really appreciate you coming. All righty. On to the most exciting part of the meeting, I think.
Well, for Chris.
That's right, Town Manager's FY24 preliminary budget projections. And I'm a budget nerd, so I love this part.
So save your enthusiasm for February, I think.
Hey, but this opens the season, and I'm all about budget season.
So as Madam Chair implied, we are compelled by law to prepare and provide a preliminary budget at the first week of January. However, those laws were written in the 90s and don't really take into account a lot of the practical realities of municipal budgeting in Massachusetts in 2023, or even any time recently. So I want you to take what I'm about to say tonight with something of a grain of salt. We've got lots of work to do. There are a lot of unknowns, and there's a lot of information that we don't have. So, as I was saying earlier, the real process begins in February. So, I have what I think is the legally sufficient document for you to peruse and at your leisure, and I can walk through some of the highlights briefly. But again, the real process begins in February. So, and by then we should have the new governor's budget, which will include local aid for the all-important Chapter 70, which is our statutory reward for meeting the minimum net spending requirements for our schools, as well as the unrestricted general government aid that towns receive to fund municipal operations. So we don't have those numbers now in the governor's budget. With the transition, it's actually even 5 weeks later than in a typical year. The statute allows an incoming governor additional time to put a budget together, given the timing of the inauguration.
That brings you right up to the end, doesn't it?
It's not what we'd prefer, but it is, it's also not the first time that has happened, so we'll figure that out. And just as important for the town is, Berkshire Health Group, who establishes the health insurance rates for municipal, school, and retired employees, will be meeting to set rates later this month. So we think we have a fair enough read on where that may go, and it's reflected somewhat in our numbers, but to the extent that we've erred in our projections, it's a correction that will have to be made, because it's a big number and it's a big commitment, which we think we've accounted for, but time will tell on that. So a couple of the highlights here. So we're looking at a total amount to be raised of $32.8 million. Right, so that's the budget. The operating portion of that, which if you were to go to the back, we'll just flip to the back, A13 is operating budget of about $28.5 million. It's a 4.4% increase preliminarily over the approved FY23 operating budget. Some of the big drivers there is, we're assuming a nearly $900,000 increase in the school's operating budget, and that's commensurate with some of Dr. Eberwein's public statements around his planning for the school budget, and frankly what administration has shared with us internally as well. So we've simply assumed that for the sake of this model moving forward. We're looking at over $200,000 in additional public safety resources. On the other side of the coin, we're looking at a reduction in general government spending in various categories, and also given that we're planning a very large infrastructure project in the wastewater department, we're seeing muted, budget growth between the wastewater and the water department as well. So those we've been able to stabilize some of those costs. But the big drivers are the big drivers. So overall, we're looking at in aggregate about 4.4% in just the operating, while maintaining a very aggressive capital plan of $1.7 million funded through our reserve account, the so-called free cash. So that's super high level, right? If we want to, talk about what's in some of the preliminary assumptions, I'm of course delighted to do that. Not sure how relevant it will be 4 weeks from now, but happy to do it.
Well, I think given the fact that it is very preliminary and we really, don't have a lot of knowledge as to what the governor's budget's going to look like, this is really good information to have moving forward, and we'll revisit this in about a month and see what everything shakes out to look like. Anybody else have any questions for Chris?
Well, I realize, like everybody else, this is the first step, legally has to be done. But now it's when, we look at some of these numbers, each of us as liaisons to certain departments need to do our work and contact them and talk to them and, see what we can do.
Right, the puts and takes.
Yeah, exactly. So now it's not just Chris, it's us, it's
Yes.
we that have to do some work.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's the real beauty of the month of January, right? Here's your starting point, and we sort of work the numbers from there to get to something more presentable in February.
So I believe we'll be sitting down with you individually with each department, going through the granularity of what to expect to help with our liaison work, as Ed pointed out, to get to the nuts and bolts of each one of the areas. And by divvying that up, we can take a pretty hard look at the whole budget, which is good.
That's what we should do.
Yeah. Great, well, thank you very much. We appreciate the preliminary projection, and we will look forward to the next month or so and getting some figures and making some tough decisions, no doubt. Fantastic. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Actually,
Oh, sure.
It was pointed out by our administrative services director via text, who is supposed to be on vacation, that, but who is watching right now because she's a dedicated, conscientious person, that we did not approve the minutes.
Thank you very much. Oh, my goodness. That wasn't on my memorandum, so I apologize for that. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of December 21st, was that?
Yep.
Of December 21st.
So I make a second.
Oh, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I got that all backwards.
We sure did, boy, we sure did. Okay, now
We got it done.
We did. Now I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you very much, gentlemen. We'll see you again on January 18th,
If not before.
if not before.